Porirua kia koutou, he uri taku no te tairawhiti, no te tanga mahaki, no te aotearoa hoki, ko Moko Morris ahau. Thanks, appreciate it. Before I kōrero, I just want to start with a little grounding exercise just to shake off wherever we've been so that we're fully present in the moment. So if you don't mind, can you please close your eyes? Ha ki roto, ha ki waho. Take a deep breath and ground yourselves in the now. Imagine that you're walking down the road in your community that has good, sustainable, perhaps culturally appropriate local food, and where everyone has an abundant choice of nourishing kai around them. Are you in a coastal area? Can you feel the sand between your toes? Are you inland by the bush? Or are you in your own backyard? Or perhaps you're in your neighbour's backyard? Maybe you're at the kura or the marae. What are you carrying? Who is with you? You continue and arrive at the place where you're going to get some kai. What do you see and experience in that place? What and who else is around you? Are you harvesting? Are you diving? Are you picking up kai from someone or a co-op for someone else? What can you smell? What do you feel? Look at your kai. What is it? Take another deep breath and draw yourself back to the present. Feel the earth before your feet and slowly bring yourself back in and open your eyes in your own time. Think about where your mind and your heart led you. Be guided by that when you start to make your recommendations with your colleagues. Kia ora. Thank you. So I'm going to zip through some definitions in this presentation, and hopefully probably things that you already know, but we're just going to go over them again. First of all, we recognise that food insecurity is driven by systems, but experienced by our atua and people. So think of the atua that you know and how that impacts food insecurity. When we think of Indigenous people, we think of the erosion of Indigenous people's food systems. It's weakened by the many relationships that we have with our atua. We also know that human-induced climate change impacts our ability to recognise patterns in nature, observations in the taiao, and we need to fine-tune our skills to address this effectively. Essentially, we need to go outside. But often, and in some cases around the world, often ancestral knowledge is unreliable and new patterns are emerging that quickly become redundant. So especially in areas where people are relying on this for their food sustenance. Examples are, ice patterns in ice where we're not understanding the patterns in nature, or they've been unreliable means, people can experience death through these things. So the patterns in nature are really important, and fine-tuning our skills is also equally important. Food security for Aotearoa is not about whether there is enough food in Aotearoa, there is plenty. The good thing about choosing to change our regulatory and economic frameworks, and I'll let you read that by yourselves, these frameworks were created by people. So that means that they can be changed by people. So we're just going to quickly go through some definitions just to ground our thinking. Food insecurity. So this relates to the high cost of housing, low wages, and while food banks and food responses are doing a great job, they alone cannot solve food insecurity. Food-related poverty. So often we hear people being called poor. So let's stop this labelling. People don't choose to be poor. And food-related poverty now affects our frontline police officers, our teachers, and our nurses. So food-related poverty has always been here. It is, I guess, now more highlighted because those that we least expect to be experiencing food-related poverty all of a sudden are. Temporary food insecurity, I'll let you read that. Food dependency. So there's some amazing examples around the motu of locally driven responses that respond to the immediate need. Food security. It's not food that people need, it's better affordable housing, higher wages. If we think of the living wage, it's not what we should aspire to, it should be what we start at. Here's the definition of food security and when it exists. Have a read of that and see if that's something that you agree with. Food sovereignty. So we hear this a lot, food sovereignty. Essentially, this is when we shift away from the more corporate farming systems and lean towards our own governance of our own food systems. We can't have Indigenous Kai sovereignty without having land sovereignty. So that's very explicit. Food justice. There's a definition of food justice. So have a think about that and see if that's something you agree with. And then also thinking about what your food system diagram looks like. Here's the local food system, a very basic one. And when we think about Indigenous food systems, changing according to the seasons. And so, when we follow the flow of nature or the flow of the season, we follow the flow of nature, which is better for us at a cellular level. The nature provides for everything. Here is a Huaparakore framework. So this is the world's first Indigenous Huaparakore system to verify food and products. And so it's quite a popular framework that resonates with non-Māori as well as Māori. Wellington City Council have adopted it as their City Food Future Plan and are embedding that across their food system. So, often we think, or maybe possibly we don't, but sometimes people think that it's too difficult to apply these frameworks, and so it's not. We just have to apply them and get in there and go for it. Kai Motuhake. So Kai Motuhake is really about re-indigenizing and decolonising and re-localising our food systems. If you go on the Kore Hiakai website, and I'll pop the link through, you'll be able to have a read of that. And this is a piece from Kai Motuhake. So I guess, food systems, being mindful of the current impact of colonisation and its ongoing and continued impact on our food systems. Thinking about going forward, it's really important that you think about building the emotional infrastructure. How do you want people to feel in the spaces that you're going to create? Perhaps if you refer back to the grounding exercises that we did at the start, sometimes we tend to fix the technical problems and we don't really allow our wairua to flow and address the emotional underlying context that need to be addressed. So that's things like, do we have, is Kai readily available at the end of the street? How quickly can people get to food? Is food accessible to everybody, and in what way? So this is a bit I've taken from the Once Were Gardeners Ngāti Toa plan. And so I imagine that, all of you are, you're across some of these concepts. Like we've got rongo here, he kai, he rongo, he kai. Our food and our medicine sources are interlinked. It's also about biodiversity. So you can't really have a food conversation without having a biodiversity conversation as well. And that's, the holistic nature of what we do as Māori. And so have a look at those things are really good to have a look at and, honour iwi aspirations. This is another section. It's not a really bad picture, actually. Another section from the Once Were Gardeners project to address Kai insecurity and, move towards kaitiakitanga and Kai Motuhake. So, just everything that you're doing is, this is a long, slow process. And so anything and everything that moves us away from a food response and moves us closer to a food secure community or Kai Motuhake is great. So no one's expecting you to have all the answers, I hope. And just be really super curious about the questions that you want to ask and think about, is it a food response? Or is it moving towards Kai Motuhake? So often we get caught up in our food responses and we think that this is food sovereignty, but often it's just an immediate food response. And that is fine, because in the here and now, that is super necessary. But as long as we're moving towards the bigger picture. So it's also about whakapapa. So shining a light on, injustice and structures that aren't working for our most vulnerable means that you can't unsee this. And so those of us who have a voice, it's really super important that we are able to highlight that and question that. So I just want to acknowledge everything that everybody's doing, and how cool that you're all part of this. And I really can't wait to hear about what you come up with, and looking forward to the Q&A. But again, don't get too hung up on, you're not going to be able to fix it all at the same time and all at once. It is a long, slow process. But if we can free our minds and be free thinkers and move towards kaimotu hake, then that's really needed at this time. So Moriora kia koutou. Where's that slide gone? Moriora kia koutou. Thank you all for listening. Hope that was helpful and useful. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. But yeah, happy with the questions next week. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to hearing what you say. Thank you for all your energy. Appreciate it. Moriora.